In this video, I'm going to be covering all the good, the bad, and everything I've been doing with my trading over the last week, all the trades I made, the ones I did really good on, the ones I didn't do really good on, and everything that I'm learning along the way as I learn how to trade. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Chris. I'm with, been trading now since March of 2024 and been doing it for quite a while now, a couple of years, and I'm learning to trade. I'm trying to get to start trading with prop firms and things like that. But I started long time ago learning from a guy by the name of Ross Cameron, and I've since moved on. I'm doing a new strategy now called the VWAP Wave System by Chris Drysdale, and I've been learning how to trade now for quite a while. And today, I'm going to be showing you all the trades I took over the last week here and all the lessons I learned and how I did overall. So with that said, let's go ahead and let's get into this. So let's talk about Monday, July 27th. So the first trade I took was on Tesla, was a short on Tesla and a break of pre-market low. Now I'm actually changing my strategy as we go here because my strategy is kind of evolved, and I'm kind of decided to do some different things here. But this trade I took today was a break of pre-market low. And if you don't know what that trade is, it's basically when the market opens at 9:30, before the market opens, I mark the pre-market high, the pre-market low, and then if we get a break of that range, then I will take a trade. So it could go short, it could go long, it doesn't matter, but I'll take that trade. And usually that trade can be a little bit volatile, is one of the reasons I'm kind of shying away from that particular type of trade, because it can get a little volatile, as you can see, like in this trade where I got in and here was the pre-market low. It broke, but look, and it did go all the way down, but it actually ended up stopping me out before that, and I ended up taking this trade and taking a loss on it, $39.90. Now my typical loss right now is right around $30 because I'm trading on a $10,000 paper trading account on Webull right now, and I'm also testing out Trade the Pool as well, and I'm going to be sharing a little bit about Trade the Pool at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around for that. But one of the problems I did encounter with this is they have these trade confirmations come up while I'm trading, when I'm going in or out, and I have to click an extra button, and that caused that $9.90, almost $10 worth of slippage there as a result. So I'm trying to get that figured out for some reason, some technical issue I'm dealing with there. So overall, I didn't do, I lost more than what I was supposed to on this trade. It's okay to lose for me. I don't have a problem with a losing trade. What I have a problem with is when I'm not stopping out when my loss is supposed to be there overall. So I have to fix that as well. So the second trade though I took was on Nvidia though, and I took a short on Nvidia. Again, it broke the pre-market low, and I got in a little bit late because you can see the pre-market low is right here on this line, and I got in at 207.11. So about what, 41 cents difference, or roughly, I guess 40 cents difference. So got in a little bit late, but it ended up still working out, and it was still a good trade. So I ended up with a $65 winner as a result of that. Pretty good. I like that trade. And then, so review, break a pre-market low, both trades, follow my rules with both trades. With trade one, I dealt with trade confirmation errors, and then trade one was choppy and didn't have it. So I'm trying to, one of the things I'm looking at before I get into trade is that I am looking to see how choppy a trade is. If it's like, just like in the case of this trade here, you see how we have these big wicks in here. It's just so choppy. Should have just stayed out of this trade altogether and just took this trade, and it would have been perfectly fine. This trade was not nearly as choppy. I do expect some types of pullback, but I don't expect it to have this huge range where it's just going way up and way back down. So I want to minimize on choppy trades and get in trades that have more of a just continuous breakout with a little bit of a pullback. That's fine. So, okay, so that was a $65 winner. And then overall at that day, I made $25.17 in profit. So not the day I was hoping for, but still in green. Can't complain. So today, Tuesday, July 28th, 2026, I ended up taking a total of 4 trades that day. Probably should have only taken 3 overall, even though it was a losing day after the third trade. I was okay with that. And then I had this right here, another loss. So I ended up losing, and this was my biggest loss of the week, was $118.98 overall. So I traded Tesla on these trades. They didn't work out, and I was trading them up in this area, and they just didn't work out. They were too volatile again. They they just ended up stopping me out so quick. And if you can tell, like my range is from basically right here to this point right there. So, these candles are way too big. I should have just stayed out of it altogether, would have probably been better off that way. So it's hard to judge that on a pre-market break because you just don't know. Sometimes it can kind of fluctuate around a little bit and then it can just go right through and it'd be good. Where other times it'll do what I'm doing here and it's just, kind of all over the place and not giving a clear direction. So I'm just choosing, I'm going to be talking about this a little bit. I'm just choosing to stay away from these trades a little bit more, especially at the later part of the week where I started to make different decisions, I can tell. So I'll be talking about that. So that was the trade. So I had, again, 4 trades that day. I had one trade there. I will mention that this trade right here was a goof up trade. Actually, I actually ended up, I was short on these two, on this trade, and I was trying to get out of it and ended up buying and then getting back into a long, which ended up being okay, but, was not a planned trade. So that was a goof right there on that particular trade. So, all right, so let's get into Wednesday, the 29th. The 29th, I ended up taking one trade that entire day, which was fine. That's how I like to do it. I like to take one strong trade, 50 shares, and I ended up getting a $55 winner, which was great. I think when I can keep things simple, get in a trade. You can tell this got in. Yeah, it did chop, but it wasn't like big long wicks like this, like up here. This is just in the range. It was right to my stop. It was perfect. It worked out really good, and the volume was there for red candles. So I figured we're good. Also, and you can't tell it in this, I don't have the VWAP bands in this particular chart. I was staying under the VWAP bands as well, so that was great. If you know anything about indicators, the VWAP deviation bands are what I typically use in a lot of my trading. But for some reason, Trade the Pool does not allow me to show that on here and put this indicator on there. I'm still trying to figure out that as well. If I can put that in here somehow, I would really like that. Otherwise, I've considered the idea of maybe moving over to TradingView and trading through TradingView to Trade the Pool and kind of connecting that together. So hopefully that might work, or if I can figure out how to do it with this. So Thursday, July 30th to 26th, I took 4 trades. Again, just like Tuesday, I took 4 trades, but this turned out completely different as a result. And why did that change? Honestly, again, I should have probably not taken this 4th trade. Probably shouldn't have, but I did take it. I thought it would be a good one. Tesla was not the winner that day. You can kind of tell here on this chart. I was going for a long on Tesla, and then when it came up, it did have this one right here, which would have been good. But I did not take that initial first trade. So I took this first one and then ended up these candles right here are what stopped me out. So I ended up taking 2 trades on it, ended up stopping out. But look, again, this is a really choppy trade. So I should have just stayed out of it altogether. And it wasn't until later in this move where it started to get cleaner price action. You didn't have all these wicks and stuff like that. And that's just much cleaner price action. And then it did reverse off of that. So, and then we got these wicks and it kind of did a range and then it started going higher again. So overall, I should have just stayed away from Tesla that day, just way too choppy. So, and then NVIDIA, this one was the cleaner move. That I made a total of $60 on this particular trade. So, this trade, I basically got in right here on this move after it came back up. It made a really nice clean move and just right through, not choppy or anything like that. And I actually, on this one, I think I set my risk to right a little bit above 2 to 1. And the reason I'm doing that, I was kind of thinking about this a little bit on these trades, is that I feel like I got to cover a $1.50 commission when I take the trade. So when I buy in, I'm paying 75 cents to get into the trade. I'm also paying another additional 75 cents when I sell the trade. So I bumped up my R just slightly above 2, just so that way it would kind of cover those fees as well. So I'm not paying for that out of my profits, and it's basically getting me closer to that 2 to 1. So I'm actually thinking about maybe even going a touch higher than that, even just so that I cover the fees and any kind of slippage as well to hold that 2 to 1 and keep it a little better. So So there you go. That was Thursday. So Thursday overall was a loss of $35.44. Even though I had a really nice winner on my second trade, um, these two trades were not, didn't win, didn't obviously. But I'll tell you what, overall, I did follow the rules. And guess what? By following my rules, guess what? My losses were minimized to $35. So that's great. When you can minimize the losses and you can follow the rules, you can do very well. So honestly, I know I should have still not taken that last trade. I just don't know why I did. But all right, so moving on to Friday, July 31st, the last and final trade of the week. I took one trade, had a $58 winner. I had two trades like that this week where they were just right on the money, right off, and I would have just held off. But this was a little bit different. I took it with QQQ. And if you don't know what that is, that's the NASDAQ 100. So the top 100, the NASDAQ. This is an ETF, if you don't know what that is. So it's an exchange traded fund. And what's nice about this trade was it worked exactly like it was supposed to. I waited till this trade particularly pulled back into this area right here, and we had this consolidation, and it started to break through this point right here, which was basically my confirmation. So after it made a low and it consolidated, I took the next trade after that. And after that, it kind of exhausted this particular move and it started to reverse, and it actually came all the way back up to the upper VWAP band. So these bands right here are how I trade. I trade with a very specific strategy. And this is a really good way to get good at start learning trading, and that is using the VWAP bands. And I don't trade typically when we trade off of VWAP. I trade off these bands. So for example, we can see how this reversed off right here. This would have been an additional trade we could have taken right there. But I didn't do that. I was just taking a good trade and moving on with the day. I didn't want to rock the boat too much. So, but there's so many good trades. You can see like another trade possibly right here, but this just ended up going sideways. It could have worked maybe. I don't know what the price action was after this point, but overall trading can be very hard for people, and I think one of the best methods out there is following the VWAP wave system that Chris Drysdale teaches. I think his methodology is very simple, and that's what I'm looking for. Very simple, straightforward strategy. And maybe one of these videos I'll cover that a little bit more about how his strategy works and all the different trades that he actually has 4 different setups that he trades, and they all work very how do I say, commonsensically when you're trading. They're predicting the waves and how and where to get in and out, and that's really what this is all about, figuring out exactly where to get in and where to get out. So there you go, my final thoughts on the week: 5 winners, 7 losers, so a total of 12 trades for the week. And then I had $263.57 in winners and $279.82 in losers, so about a 1-to-1 versus winners to losers, total wins to losses. Overall, I still ended up losing for the entire month. This wasn't for the week. It was the entire month, I think, was $93.76. So for the overall month of July, not a terrible loss. I think in the last month, I was like 250 down. We'll go over that here in a second, but roughly a 1-to-1 versus wins over losses. And when we do an average winner, my average winning trades were $52.71. My average losing trades were $39, about $40. And that's about a 1.32 to 1 profit loss ratio. And then overall, I had a 41.67 trade to win percentage. So trade win percentage was definitely not there. I would love to see at least a 50% on that, and there's a big reason why, and I want to go over that in another video, talking about profit to loss and how you can use that to your advantage, especially as a newer trader who doesn't get a lot of wins. You can use that to your advantage, and I want to talk about that in another video, and I'm working on it right now. I swear I'm going to get it done here shortly. So but overall, not a terrible month. Definitely exercised my discipline. I definitely was holding my profit loss ratios better at the end of the month. And I'm going to take the month of August going forward to really dial in my win percentage, getting that at least a 50% or better, and then getting a 2-to-1 profit loss ratio. I'm pushing for that 2-to-1 profit loss ratio in my trading. So hopefully we can definitely do that. I think we can. I think it's possible. I think we can get there. It's just a matter of adjusting my rules a little bit and getting into that. So So overall, let's jump into my journal here real quick and I'll show you just a few more stats here. So overall, I had total shares I traded was 2,204 shares. I had an average share position size of about 43 shares per trade. I ended up losing about 4 cents a share. So if you think about every share I traded, I lost 4 cents a share if you average it all out. Green trades, I took 21 green trades. So a total of $1,104.72 in total earnings for green trades. And then I had an average green trade of $52.61. Like I just said, I had 31 red trades out of the 52 trades I took. So $1,198.48 in losses, and then an average red trade of $38.66 for the month. So when we take winners, average winners to average losers, we're looking at an risk to reward of about 1.36, which ain't bad. It's over 1. Anything over 1 is definitely great. But I'm shooting for a 2 to 1, and there's a big reason why. But I'll be talking about in another video, obviously. And then my average trade win percentage, 40.37% for this month. More than double that over the month before that. And then my P&L for the month, $93.76 in losses. But I had $251.35. So improvements overall in some areas. I mean, more than half less the losses. So instead of over 2% in losses, I had about 0.8% in losses. And my risk reward and risk ratio here is not as high as the previous month, but based on the strategy I'm pushing and all that, we should be going a lot higher, especially because I started this later in the month. Overall, I grade myself better for the month. I got a 2.06 out of 3, so it's getting better. When I take every trade, I give myself a score. So a 1, 2, or a 3, and a 3 would be like what was I doing there? It was not good. 2 was, it could be a winner, it could be a loser, but it's just like, well, maybe we shouldn't have done that. And then a 1 was like, I executed perfectly and everything worked out. I got good trades. Even if it was a loser, maybe I get a 1 on that even because I did and executed the rules correctly. So that makes a big difference. So overall, the calendar looks a little bit red, but and I did have a losing month. I had a losing month, just a barely green month last month, and a big red month this month. The month before that was good. So this is the first, I would say, red month since I've been tracking all this stuff. But I know I'm going to get better. So real quick, I just want to say that right now I'm trading with Trade the Pool. And if you don't know what they are a prop firm. This is basically limited risk trading. So what this means is I go in, I pay them a fee, I do an evaluation, and then I trade with them. And if I pass the evaluation, they give me an account to trade with. And then if I earn over $300, then I can take the payout and I can get 70% of that. So whatever 70% of $300. So if I make $1,000, I would get $700 paid out to me. So definitely some great opportunities when it comes to Trade the Pool. Eventually I want to do a review on them, but I haven't used them enough to say that I want to give a full complete review on them. I haven't used it enough. So they definitely have a lot of options. You can trade with a little $5,000 account up to a $200,000 account. They do have higher numbers, but you gotta kind of earn those so as you go. So finally here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Check out all the videos here on Trade the Pool or Trading with Chris, and I would love to have you a part of this community. Right now it's a small community, but we're building it, we're growing, and we're getting better. So definitely check it out, and I will see you in the next video.